Is just a few days away, and today we are giving the traditional whoopie pie a seasonal makeover in our kitchen. Joining me now, our mother and daughter cooking duo, Betty Ann Donegan and Stephanie Dietz. Welcome, ladies. It's great to have you back as always.
Good to be back.
All right, we're making whoopie pies, that is, in the kitchen.
Yep. And it's a relatively simple recipe. Really, it's a small cake. That's really what it is. It's not really a cookie. And Steph has the mixer, and she has some sugar and some shortening and a little bit of egg, and she whipped it up nice and light and fluffy. And these are the dry ingredients.
And we're going to have the recipe on our website,
yep, the recipe
so that all the details will be there. Okay, so how did whoopie come about, these whoopie pies, Steph?
Well, it's traditionally an Amish recipe, and it goes way back to the early part of the century. And it's a cake with frosting on the inside, so it's easy to pack, which is nice, because usually a piece of cake you wouldn't be able to just put in a lunchbox. So people used to put them in lunch boxes and lunch pails and take them to work or take them to school, and that's how they started. And that's where you get
when they opened up the lunch pail, they said
whoopie, because they were so excited to have them.
Well, I would be too. All right, what are you doing now?
I'm just stirring together the dry ingredients. When you're making a cake, whenever you do something like this, you want to mix this as much as you can, so you have to mix that as little as possible.
Okay.
Because if you mix something too much after you put the liquid in, it forms gluten. That makes it tough.
All right.
And this is supposed to be a very tender cake. So this is the.
What did you just put in there?
I put in cocoa. I put in a little bit of salt, a little bit of cream of tartar, and some baking soda. This is an old recipe, so we have baking soda and cream of tartar.
How old of a recipe when you say
well,
old?
This is from the turn of the beginning of the 1900s.
Wow.
That was before we have double-acting baking powder, and so you use baking soda with cream of tartar.
So you stick with what the recipe calls for.
Yeah.
You don't want to substitute.
You could, but I'm a traditionalist, so this is how the recipe started.
Okay.
We're going to keep it like that.
Now, can you see how light and fluffy this is? Because this is what it needs to look like.
I can, yes.
Okay. So before I start, you want it to be very light and fluffy before you start adding the dry ingredients. And so I have the dry ingredients here and the milk and the vanilla here, and I'm going to add them alternately. So I'm going to start with the flour and then put a little bit of milk, then flour, then milk, then end with the flour also.
Okay, this is traditionally when I make a mess in the kitchen.
Yeah. Well, low speed. Do it on low speed.
Okay. Otherwise, you're going to be wearing it. You want to always start with the flour, because if you put the milk in first, go ahead. It's okay. If you put the milk in first and you have some air in there, you're going to dissolve the sugar because of the liquid, and then you lose your air.
Okay.
If you put all the flour in and no liquid, it gets too stiff, and then when you add the milk, it's hard to incorporate it and you get lumps. So you want to add a little flour, a little milk, a little flour, a little milk.
So balance it out.
Exactly. What you want to do is keep the sugar from dissolving, because the sugar and the fat is what holds the air. Now, we're using shortening in this recipe because we don't want these to spread too much. The melting point of butter is about 80 degrees, but the melting point of shortening is 110. So if you use butter in this recipe, and plus there's a little bit of water in butter, the cookies would spread out and get very flat and tend to get a little crispy. We want them to be cakey. And we're also going to use a greased and floured pan, and that will form a little bit of a crust on the bottom of the cakey part. This thing won't fall apart when we try to ice it.
How sweet is this?
The filling is relatively sweet. The filling is made from marshmallow fluff, which is a marshmallow, a soft marshmallow, and we use butter and a little bit of sugar and then a little bit of vanilla. The filling is the sweetest part. The cake is not that sweet, but this is sweet. This is definitely.
I can see why that would be popular with the kids and adults, of course.
Here we go. See?
Okay, see what it looks like?
Oh, yes.
Now we can scoop it. This is a 1 tablespoon scoop, but first I have to grease the pan. And I'm going to use this is a pastry brush.
Okay.
We're just going to grease the pan.
Easier with a pastry brush.
Now, even if it's a non-stick pan, you still want to grease it. We're not doing this to keep it from sticking. We're doing this to keep a little crust on the bottom of the pan. Then you put in a little bit of flour, and any excess flour, we would tap it off. You see, now this is going to.
You just spread it.
Right, you're going to spread it. And this is just how you would grease it in flour pan for a cake, because basically what we are making
is a cake.
Is a cake. Okay. We don't have to. There's not that much. We can leave that there. So we take the scoop. And you just want to portion it out like this. Now, the trick to getting this light is to get this in the oven right away. The oven should be preheated, because when you have baking soda, there's no second rise. It kicks in once and that's it.
But if you wait too long, what happens?
You don't get any leavening.
Nothing.
So it doesn't they won't be light. And this is going to make about 48 cookies, and then you put them together. And you make 24 little sandwiches.
So you get all this batter in the oven as quickly as possible.
As quickly
so you
as
have to have several trays then.
Yeah, it's better to have a couple of trays. Yeah.
Okay, so you can put all that in the oven at the same time.
So this goes into the oven.
Okay.
You got flour everywhere.
And you know, I was looking at this gadget you have here. What is this?
Oh, this is to measure shortening. You can measure anything that's thick. This is great for children because you don't always have a measuring cup for every single size. And this is what they look like when they come out of the oven.
Beautiful.
Now, when you touch them, your finger should see how it springs
Yes.
back. That's to tell you they're done. If it doesn't spring back, if an impression remains, they're not cooked enough.
Okay. And so you were saying this is for just measuring.
Shortening. Here, Steph, why don't you start filling those?
Okay.
We're going to fill them with the icing, and then we're going to roll them in shots. This is a Halloween sprinkle. That gives it a Halloween look.
And at Christmas time, you can just switch the colors,
Yeah,
right?
yes, actually. And you can even dye the filling.
Oh, you can.
Because this is so white, you could over-dye that with orange. If it was a real dark color, you couldn't do that.
We have about a minute, so we can time ourselves here. Go ahead.
All right, so I'll just show you what this is for. You just take the shortening, and you just put it in here, and then whatever you need, like if you need a quarter of a cup, you just dial it up to a quarter of a cup.
And what I like about this is that it has the metric system
That's
in
both.
here.
And then you just take it and you just push it out, and that's your quarter of a cup. It's very accurate.
Have you noticed that some recipes actually are using metric measurements?
Sure.
So this would be very handy for that.
Yeah, yeah. When we go on our
Look
trips,
at this.
all of
Okay,
our-
that was fast. Can we see you do that
Sure.
again?
Yeah.
Okay. So all you did was put the filling in.
Yeah.
And when you're going to roll it in the shot, you need a lot of filling.
Okay.
And the filling is really delicious. These are great frozen, by the way. Since there's no preservatives in this at all, these will not keep well. So you can wrap them and put them in the freezer.
And how long can they stay in the freezer?
Oh, the freezer.
Oh, for a while.
For a while?
A long time. See, we
Okay,
wrap
look
them
at that.
individually in plastic wrap and put them in the freezer. And they're delicious even frozen right out of the freezer because they're very airy.
So you can make them ahead of time and
Yeah.
serve them on Halloween?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
I actually
easy.
prefer them frozen.
You do
they're
like them
delicious.
frozen?
Yeah, yeah, they're so
All
good
right.
frozen.
And so that was it. You just put it in
Yeah.
and just roll them on the
Yeah.
side. Oh, that's great. Of course, if you want the recipe, all you have to do is come to our website, WTNAs.com, and click on Connecticut Style